rapper says, "Are you ready to stop self-sabotaging?" I know I am.
Hello everyone! For today, we are going to be talking about how to stop self-sabotaging. I noticed that in December, the busiest month of the year, that the pile in front of the laundry room door came back with vengeance. And this time I was very aware that I was doing that action. And I allowed myself to surrender to the feelings and the emotions of self-sabotaging. I told myself that, oh my gosh, I'm so late. I don't have time to fully put this away or put it into the garage and into the trash. I'm just gonna drop it right here for now. I'll get it later, no big deal. Or I told myself, well, it's in the laundry room. No one's gonna see it. It's hidden, it's fine. And then the last one, which was, well, you're not hoarding anymore. You have the ability to declutter it, and when you get to it, you will throw it out, like we're doing right now. But I was so aware that I was self-sabotaging and creating the pile in front of the door when I have done so much recovery work in my hoarding disorder that I was really wondering, why did I allow it? Why did I surrender to those emotions? And on this video, we're going to dive a little deeper into those subconscious habits, because I'm not going to put myself down or be embarrassed or ashamed of myself that I allowed it to occur. Instead, I'm going to take the situation and look at it as another opportunity to dive a little deeper into the lesson, because clearly something is still going on within myself that is allowing me to surrender to the habit. So while we're decluttering in front of the door again, we're going to dive a little deeper and ask, how do we stop self-sabotaging and finally get over that hump?
So the first step is going to be recognizing that you're in a self-sabotaging cycle. I have been doing this to myself for years, whether it showed up in hoarding, cleaning, decluttering, shopping. I was self-sabotaging, but I didn't recognize it at the time. I just surrendered to the behaviors and habits and let my emotions override the action that I should have taken. An example of that is when I was in college and I would try to do a declutter session and actually let go of some stuff. A few days later, I would go and shop and buy more items, and I proclaimed it as a reward for my hard work. I knew deep down inside that I shouldn't go shopping, but I surrendered to the emotions that I deserved a reward. I hadn't realized that I was self-sabotaging any decluttering progress I had made, and the cycle continued for years to come. But once you realize you're in a self-sabotaging cycle, you can start to change it. Number 2 is going to be understand what causes self-sabotaging behavior. Dr. Judy Ho explains that self-destructive behavior is a biological response. We get a boost of dopamine by setting goals. And to my fellow ADHDers, you know how much we love our goal setting. But when it's time to complete the goals, the fear of failure triggers avoidant behavior, and our nervous system quickly wants to prevent the threat of failure to occur. So we subconsciously start to pull away from our goals. They call this the approach avoidance conflict. Self-sabotaging is occurring because there's still a discrepancy between our goals and our subconscious behavior. Number 3 is going to be recognizing what's triggering the behavior. My example is going to be the pile in front of the door. A lot of this stuff, I should have just completed the task and taken it to the trash can or put it away in the attic. But I hated that I was already late to meeting up with my friends, so I rationalized that I would just do it later. My emotions and feelings of disappointing my friends for always being late prevented me from taking the action of completing the task. My nervous system recognized the anxiety of being late, so it defaulted into old subconscious behaviors. And that was drop it and go, you'll get it later. You're already so late to meeting your friends. Number 4 is going to be recognize the root behavior of the self-sabotaging. I had realized that the action of drop and go was a bad behavior, but the root emotion hijacked my action of completing the task and take the trash to the garage. God forbid that I would be an extra 30 seconds late than I already was. I recognized that the root emotion was guilt, embarrassment, and my disease to please. I felt so guilty making everyone wait for me. How unconsiderate of me. I felt embarrassed that I was the one who was always late, and I still couldn't figure out how to be on time, and I always struggled with the disease to please or good girl syndrome. I just wanted to make everyone happy. I couldn't bear the anxiety of making someone else upset. It literally hurt me to my core, so I did whatever I could to keep the other person happy. I recognized what the root emotion was in that situation. Number 5 is going to be allow yourself to process the emotion instead of repressing it. When there is a negative emotion being triggered within myself, I allow myself to feel it. I validate that this emotion doesn't feel good. I allow the negative thought to complete its sentence in a safe space. Disclaimer. If you have negative thoughts that contain any self-harm, please contact help immediately. After I allowed myself to feel the guilt and embarrassment of being late, I started to release those negative emotions so that I could allow myself to have loving, accepting emotions and thoughts to self-soothe my nervous system. I told myself that my true friends are going to understand that I'm usually late. It's been an ongoing pattern of mine since childhood, and I can have an honest conversation with them that if they need me to arrive at a certain time, tell me to arrive 30 minutes earlier. Just don't tell me that. The point is that I'm allowing myself to feel the negative emotion instead of keeping it all bottled up inside. And I'm creating a loving environment so that my nervous system regulates itself. So now the emotion is not going to hijack my action and I can complete the task at hand. This is how I have detached my emotions to a lot of my hoarded stuff. You've heard me say many times, I can't believe I don't feel an attachment to this item anymore. It's because I released the negative emotions within myself. That attachment that I needed this to regulate my nervous system. Since the negative emotions don't exist anymore, my nervous system isn't feeling triggered to cope with it by hoarding, shopping, thrifting, overeating, or any type of old behavioral patterns that I used to have. And number 6 is going to be write out your personal healthy coping mechanisms. I like to call this my Serenity Toolbox. We're always going to have a negative emotion show up, whether it's suppressed from past or something that's happening in our present. And I want us to have our healthy coping mechanisms handy. There are many different tools that you can put together in your Serenity Toolbox. You just have to recognize what works personally best for you. You can write all your feelings and emotions out in a journal, and it also helps you track your emotions and patterns. You could practice meditation, mindfulness, and prayer. That's another big successful one. You could also stress clean. That's what my mom did her whole life, and I didn't understand it at the time. But now I'm starting to understand the therapy of stress cleaning. Another big one is communicating these emotions with a loved one or a therapist. I would say that at least 50% of my recovery was from being very vocal and communicating all my thoughts and emotions to all of you. And you all created a safe space for everyone to communicate their emotions, feelings, and thoughts, particularly to hoarding. And that has been a huge instrumental change in my recovery and being able to finally open up the floor space again get past those negative emotions. We can get to the garage door a lot better once I move this ring light, of course. And yes, there's still some spaces in the laundry room that need to be decluttered and cleaned up, which is quite okay, as we are becoming more self-aware on what emotions are triggering the action. And we're also going to be in the present moment. And that present moment is that we did it. We opened up the space in front of the door. We can easily open the door and go outside and celebrate this victory of ending self-sabotaging. And my hope and my prayer is that this video motivated and encouraged you to clean, declutter, and let something go in your home today too.